Good morning, everyone. It's 11 a.m. here in Montreal. We're getting ready to start our presentation. My name is Laurent. I'm from the Workleap team. I'm really excited to be back on a panel this morning. It's been a while since we've seen each other. I think our last moment together was around the early April, so super excited to be back. I'll be your host today for the panel on navigating the engagement crisis. Um, I see people are joining us right now. You're telling us where you're from. I'd like to know, to get started, what are your plans for this summer? It's end of June for me. I'm really excited for summer to start in Montreal. Got some excited road trips planned for a weekend, so it should be an exciting one. Let me know what you have in the bank for this summer. Before we start with this awesome panel, let me do a little bit of housekeeping for everyone. First of all, for all of the SHRM members joining us, the webinar is accredited for your SHRM recertification. So you will get the code at the end of the webinar for 1 credit toward your recertification. If you have questions during the webinar, don't hesitate to send them in the Q&A. We're keeping 50 minutes at the end of the presentation to answer all of your questions. That being said, don't wait until the presentation is over. As soon as the question pops, get them in the chat. Who knows, maybe we're going to answer them during the presentation. We have a really excited panel today. We have some returning guests from past Workleap projects. We have some new guests who are going to be joining us this morning. And as I'm looking through all of your, I would say, pretty exciting summer plans, Sara from Workleap, do you want to start with your presentation?
Of course. Thanks so much for having me, Laurent. So a little bit about me. I'm Sara from Workleap, and for the past year, I've been a senior HR VP in Workleap's culture and org function. So I'm based myself in Montreal in Workleap Sunny offices today. When it comes down to my role, my main focus is to act as a trusted HR advisor for our people, so leaders, employees within our technology function here at Workleap. So I align them to their work, to their successes, their development. And on my day to day, I get to partner with our leaders on best practices to be shared, aligning and brainstorming, strategizing tactics to boost employee engagement. So it is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. And I'm very happy to be speaking with my peer panelists about it today.
Thank you, Sara. On to the other Sara from EDF. Do you want to start with a short intro?
Very happy to, yes, and very happy to be here too. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm Sara Attree, and I am from Brighton in the UK, so on the south coast, around about an hour from London. I currently work for EDF UK. We're an energy company, and I've been with EDF for around about 8 years, always in the people function. My background is definitely business partnering, but I've been more recently doing a lot of work around employee experience. And I currently have the pleasure of heading up people experience in our retail section of the business. I am certainly super passionate about creating great places to work. That's kind of my driver for work, and certainly creating really, really good experiences for people. So super happy to be on this panel with the other amazing guests here, and what questions are to come. Thank you.
I'm muted. Sorry, I said thank you, Sara. I'm also super excited to have you on the panel this morning. That's the beauty of live events. On to the next speaker, a returning speaker this morning and a fan favorite from our Moments That Matter Summit, Mary Jo. Take it over.
Thank you. My name is Mary Jo Ogren. I am head of talent and people operations at Graham Allen Partners. Graham Allen is a private equity firm located in South Bend, Indiana, in the US. And we have a portfolio of companies, and I work across the portfolio on things like engagement, performance management, recruiting, all the kind of things that come under talent. The majority of my time is spent on a specific company, which is called Analytics, and they are a data science and IT infrastructure company. And so when I talk today, a lot of what I talk about will be my experience working with Analytics in South Bend.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Exciting stuff. Last but not least, Kelly from BioScript. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, thanks so much, Laurent. Happy to be here. And you mentioned technology issues, and boy, it was down to the minute getting me connected on here this morning. So really excited to be here, particularly starting off that way. So I'm Kelly Thompson. I am the VP of People and Engagement with BioScript Solutions. We are a specialty healthcare organization in Canada. We have a national reach. I work out of our home office in Moncton, New Brunswick. So really excited to be here. I've been with BioScript for 4 years now. The company's been in existence for about 20 years, but our story is really a story of incredible growth, particularly over the last 5 to 10 years, which has been a huge part of my experience and opportunity in growing our people and engagement team and helping to shape and foster our culture. So really excited to be here today.
Thank you, Kelly. We're also super excited to have you. Without further ado, I would say let's start with the questions. I think we have a lot of ground to cover this morning, and I think people are excited to think about to speak about the EX engagement and the engagement crisis. So before we jump into everything regarding the engagement crisis, we've been hearing a lot of chatter about the EX, of course. Lately, we just launched the EX Leader program. You are part of that program. I would like to know, as a an organization that thrives in EX and like as an EX leader, what is a focal point and what like made EX a focal point at your organization? Sara from EDF, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah. So I just love the live stuff. Yeah, super happy to start with this one. So from an EDF perspective, particularly in the part of the business I work in, I think there was a lot of recognition for us that we were a good company. We were working really well, super caring. People stayed with us a long time, just very customer centric. But actually, there was a kind of really good recognition that our customer experience had a ceiling unless we really started to focus much more heavily on the employee experience. And we recognized that for many years we've been quite successful doing the things we'd done. So it was going to be quite a significant mindset shift to get into that space. Now, as someone who's passionate about employee experience, I have always felt that employee experience, great employee experience, is what leads great customer experience. You know, I'm sure you'll all be familiar with the infinity loop that kind of tends to loop it round, so that if you get a great customer employee experience, you get a great customer experience, and so on and so forth. But actually, fundamentally, unless you get that employee experience right, actually, you're just going to have a limit to how far you can go with the customer experience. And if I think about it, and I'm sure all of us can resonate with this, if you really think about great customer experience, when you've had that, when somebody's smiley and they clearly love their job and they love where they work and they're passionate about purpose and you can feel it, whether it's over the phone or somebody serving you or wherever it is, when somebody loves it, you feel it and you go away with a bit of a buzz. It makes you feel good as a customer, makes them feel good. And we're human beings at the end of the day. So I think we really value those positive interactions because it makes us feel valued. That's just what it does as human beings. So for us at EDF, we needed to shift that culture a little bit, take some of the great stuff we were doing and make it better and really put our focus and energy into where we needed to improve. So we have definitely gone through quite a journey in employee experience without any shadow of a doubt over the last few years. And I'm sure we'll touch on some of those points as we go through, notably during a pandemic, which is a significant thing to affect anyone, but certainly any organization when you're dealing with thousands sometimes of people and their safety and all of the things you have to bring into play there. And for us as a significant call center environment, that's certainly interesting when people have always worked in an office and then you take them all out to keep their safety. These are big things. So anyway, we've done that. We've moved through, gone through lots of different iterations. We're currently in the middle of a large scale transformation where customer is crucial, but our employee is as crucial. So we've shifted definitely a dynamic from perhaps employee experience being the slightly poorer relation to now the employee experience being as equal, if not slightly more important, ultimately to provide the good customer experience. So yeah, I think it's just taking EX from good to great to enable our people to thrive and deliver really well. So yeah, that was kind of the shift for us, was hugely about, if we want to create a really great customer experience, we've got to do even better with our employees.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think Kelly, too, you also have, like you mentioned, the COVID and like how it affected your employee experience. I think Kelly can also relate to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of what Sara said resonated with me, connection between the team member experience and the customer experience. So BioScript has always been committed to our patients first as part of our core values. And to accomplish that, we believe it means being people-centric in everything we do. This was instilled by our co-founders from the beginning, that it takes passion, empowered, and engaged people to deliver exceptional patient care and support. So our people have been the key to our success, and our culture has long been a point of differentiation for us. However, in 2020, we'd reached a point in our growth and our national footprint with nearly 1,000 team members. So we'd essentially doubled our team members every 2 to 3 years. So it just became harder for us to organically get the pulse of the organization. We pride ourselves in feeling like a family, and we wanted to maintain that as we continue to grow. So we wanted to implement a quick and easy way to gather real-time feedback from our team members to maintain and grow that engagement. So the timing worked really well because we implemented Office 5, now Workleap, in the fall of 2020 when we were going through significant change, particularly as a healthcare organization through COVID. So we had half of our team members who were still frontline team members going into offices and supporting patients every day. And then we also had a large percentage of our teams, enablement support teams, that were adapting to remote work for the first time, which was not something we had ever been equipped for. So we really saw that agility, and we were very fortunate. I would say we're lucky our team members believe so fully in our purpose and our mission of simplifying access to specialty care that it really shined through. But we were fortunate that engagement didn't become a priority in reaction to a crisis, but being able to measure it and access real-time data to know how our teams were doing through that and to leverage this to drive action has been a game changer for us.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. And growth is an important part of your answer. And I think Mary Jo also, what made EX a focal point for you is growth also, but through a different strategy, right?
Absolutely. So, the experience of our team members was always important to us, but it wasn't something that we actively talked about or measured or had plans around. And we were a small company, maybe like 75 people. And then we started doing acquisitions. And when we started bringing other companies into our company, we very quickly realized that team member experience had to be more than something that was just going to happen, right? That we had to be very intentional, that we had to have ways to measure it, that we had to have strategies. And so for us, I would say it was definitely the acquisitions and wanting our new team members to feel absolutely embraced and happy at Analytics. That's the company I'm talking about right now. And wanting to make sure they had a positive experience. So one of the things we did, which we're not really talking about strategies, but we used Office 5 to start segmenting people into what their legacy company was. So we made groups of like, what legacy company were you from? We started to measure how our new team members were feeling. We did a lot of strategies around making sure they felt accepted. So definitely when we started doing acquisitions is when we got really, really serious about employee experience and engagement.
That's awesome. Um, Sarah, do you want to cap it off with the Workleap organization?
Yeah, of course. So why has Workleap been focusing on EX? Because to put it short, I think that's where we started. EX is what we have been keeping top of mind in everything we do, from building products to the way we support our customers, keeping customers centric in it all. So our vision has always been to make work better and simpler for everyone involved. And that's reflected in the EX that we craft for our people, which will then have a ripple effect on the seamless experience that we provide our customers through the product experience, through the support experience. So it's truly an enabler for having a highly performing team, which also is sustainably performing in their day-to-day to be able to achieve those goals. So when we focus our approach of on EX, on the work experience, it's really important to enable it through technology. So when someone, for instance, begins on their very first day at work, the onboarding experience to how they collaborate with their peers, either async or sync, the cascading and communication of the goals, all of these things are enabled by tech, which brings us back to, of course, having technology involved to unlock the potential of employee experience and keeping that top of mind when we're building our own products as well. So knowing that by having those tools that enable EX, empower people to work at their best, to make work better, we truly can unlock the value, not just for Workleap, but for our customers, for our products, and then as well, like the own employee's journey as well, their development, how they feel at work every single day. So it's truly the perspective we've had from the early stages of Workleap, looking at it from the point of view that it truly does stem from EX.
Yeah, exactly. And let's right now jump into the meat of the webinar, the big topic, the engagement crisis, which is on everyone's lips right now. You've seen the studies. I assume you've seen the research. If you're joining this webinar, you're aware of what's going on, especially in the US. So according to Gallup's latest study, we're now reaching the lowest engagement levels in the US in the last 11 years. So that's an additional 4 million of employees in the United States who are, according to Gallup, disengaged. So the consequences for organization can be really high. We're speaking turnover, we're speaking potential loss in productivity, which can also definitely affect your organization. I have a question for you, Sara. Do you think the engagement crisis is really about engagement, or you think there's an underlying reason to that crisis which might explain the engagement drops?
Yeah, so looking at the cause and effect of what came first, the engagement crisis needs to have been impacted by something, right? And we talked about EX a lot, and in my opinion, it is truly two different drivers that could impact someone's engagement at their day-to-day. So it could come either from internal drivers within the workplace, so work experience being a big topic, and external drivers as well, like the economy, the well-being, and the overall individual's life experience, because both of these combined will impact how the person not only shows up to their workday, but also goes back to their personal life at the end of the workday. So it's a cycle. But I do think that one of the focal areas to look at is the work experience and how to assess the current state of it to then develop strategies on how to respond to it.
Yeah, exactly. And to follow on that, Mary Jo, you are the only speaker on this panel right now, which is located in the US. The study I'm referring to right now, the Gallup study, is mostly done for US organization and US employee. So in your current experience, Mary Jo, do you see that there would be any top factors that could be contributing to that current engagement crisis within organizations?
I think that's a tough question. I certainly don't have all the answers, but I think one of the things is that sometimes people, leaders, and companies forget that engagement and experience doesn't have to be super complicated. Like I see organizations that almost get paralyzed because they aren't sure what to do about engagement. And I think that sometimes the simplest answers are the best. I think that this at our companies, this underlying sense of treating people the way we want to be treated, which means that, we want to make sure that our team members have positive experiences, that when they have a baby, we send a gift, right? And it's not all about money. When they have a birthday, we did a good job, someone recognizes them. It's just this like fundamental need people have to feel like they're important. And I think that, and that they matter. And I think that what happens is that there has been this whole convoluted, like complicated way of thinking about employee experience and engagement instead of just thinking about what do we as a company do to make our people feel like they actually matter to us. I think that's the biggest thing. I really think that if people think they matter to you, they're engaged. Now, I don't think it's easy to do. I don't have all the answers, but I don't think it's complicated. And I think we're getting away from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It makes total sense. Do you think that sometimes organizations get a bit too caught up or think too much about engagement, so that prevents them from taking action and putting together these engagement initiatives? Like, would you think that like an engagement crisis that an engagement initiative that's like not a 10 out of 10 is better than not doing anything at all. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we don't do a lot of complicated things to be honest, but we started really simply by encouraging team members to give recognition to each other. So we started this Teams channel on Microsoft Teams. We call it OnStars, which is a play on our company's name. And we started saying, hey, every time someone does something good on here, give them a shout out. And we started this culture where we're constantly giving positive feedback to our peers. And then Office Vibe, which we use, came out with the good vibes. So you can send a good vibe, a positive thing directly to people. And we started giving positive reinforcement for the number of those that you sent. So again, it wasn't complicated, it didn't cost money, but we started making this big deal about, hey, we want to tell our colleagues how much we appreciate them. So it's not rocket science, it's not some crazy creative idea, but we just started with things that we thought were very simple and that all of us want to hear, right? I
Hmm.
really think if you think about how you want your family to treat you, how you want your friends to treat you, those kind of respectful things that show that you care is really what team members want in the office too.
Hmm.
So again, I don't think it should be as complicated. I think you can start really small and make a difference.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I see also that people seem to agree in the chat. Nicole, you had the theory about the disengagement as a result of an unavoidable post-COVID dip. I think that's the case. Also, probably the economic state right now in the US and North America could be definitely a contributing factor. Maureen also agrees with you, Mary Jo. Too often, the message employee get regularly is work, 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 and meet goals. Engagement at work is minimized. So employees are people. That's 100%
Exactly.
correct. Preach, Maureen, you're correct, and I agree with you. To follow up on that engagement crisis question, we speak a lot about the turnover. Of course, that's like a direct consequence of a disengaged workforce. What role does engagement and EX as like a greater concept play in fostering a culture that would reduce turnover rates
Yeah.
in an organization?
For us, this is huge. We're in the tech industry. We're in a, Midwestern secondary market where it is hard to get tech talent. And while we have remote team members, we definitely prefer to support the economy of our local area. So when we do get a highly skilled technical person at analytics, we had better try to keep them. And I think turnover is almost all about experience with your manager, experience with the company. Um, and one of the reasons we are so focused on team member experience and recognition really is because I think it drives turnover. I think it's very rare that someone leaves for some outside factor, right? I think like with immigration, you think about a push and a pull factors, right? I think it's the same thing with turnover. And the key is that if we can control what we're doing to not be pushed, we have a lot better chance of keeping people. And that's all about the experience we give our people.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's like a great dig down in the crisis, what's going on. I think everyone is much clearer on the causes, but what I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you on the panel today is what are some initiative that you as an EX leader, as an HR leader, as a thriving organization put together to increase employee experience? Because I think the way we're going to tackle it is that employee experience is a direct cause and like it influences engagement and disengagement. So what are some initiatives that you implemented that had a success in improving employee experience? Kelly, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, I'd love to. And I really loved what Mary Jo said, especially to the point of something simple and taking action. And I think, contrary to some more traditional engagement survey approaches of those large scale annual reviews and high level action plans, we found the most success in managing engagement really at the people leader level. So utilizing Workleap has allowed for our leaders to have a pulse in their team, how their team's doing, and seeing the impact of changes. So if there's an org structure change, if there's a new system rolled out, we can see those changes in real time. And that's really allowed us to have open and transparent discussions with the team and putting actions into place and seeing those results in real time. This has also been hugely valuable for our HR business partners from a coaching perspective. to really drive meaningful discussions and actions tied to those trends and opportunities identified. Similar to what Mary Jo said as well around recognition, that's been an area that we wanted to continue to reinforce as our footprint has gotten bigger. So we've seen great success with Good Vibes. We've had over 9,000 Good Vibes sent across the organization last year. For context, we have 1,400 team members, and we're on track to exceed that again this year. And we've also incorporated some custom Good Vibes cards based on our core values. So that way we leverage that to select monthly and annual recognition awards. And we also take the time to celebrate internally our teams and leaders who are doing exceptionally well in their overall engagement results, as well as those who we've seen experience significant improvements or who take the time to answer all the feedback that's provided. Because I think there's so much value, again, back to that, don't overcomplicate it. People want to feel heard. They want to know that their voice is valued and that we care about them as a team member and that they're not just a number in the organization. So having that connection and really driving that through our leaders has definitely led to great success. And then we've also seen some great impact in terms of being able to leverage the data to drive. We've seen great improvements in our relationship with manager scores. We've done a lot of focus on leadership development and focusing on our leaders and how we support them with tools and skills to best support their team. So yeah, I would say really managing at the leader level has been where we've seen the greatest success.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great answer, and also makes everyone in your organization, I would say, a bit more accountable for employee engagement, right? So it unites everyone into a common project. That's awesome. Super happy to hear that. Sara from EDF, do you have any successful initiative you'd like to share with the audience?
Oh, absolutely. I think I resonated so much with what Kelly was saying there in terms of some of the things that she and her company have been doing. But I think sort of from our experience in particular, we've been through quite a large transformation, or we're in the middle of one at the moment, which is both a platform, an operating model, and a culture. So these are quite big, all interlinked. One will not work without the other. So this has been significant over the last couple of years for us, and we're just coming towards the end. And I think, as I mentioned, we are an energy business with customer-facing people as the majority of our people. These are people who are time poor, as a general rule, people who have quite work time-bound type roles. So some of the stuff we've really had to do to continue with engagement and to really, really embody what we're trying to get to is to show people that we really care. So we've gone through quite a long journey around employee listening, which I won't go into loads of detail now, but where we've landed in that employee journey has definitely been around using Office Vibe. We started with a place where we had very bespoke, just quick. We wanted to find out how people were, if they were okay. We moved just more into COVID times in really understanding what people needed. You know, so everyone was at home. We then got our first platform, learned a lot through that process of our first platform, worked for us, and then got our people very much ready for actually a much more manager-led and owned, business-owned, approach, because they are the people, after all, who will know far better how their particular teams are working. So that was definitely a key story for us. And I think some of the things that Kelly was saying around how the recognition piece, the bit that we do around recognition, is an enormous part of what we do at EDF within retail. We too use the Good Vibes, which we absolutely love. I'm not going to go into competition, but we are definitely up there on Good Vibe numbers in a month. But anyway, we have some behavioural standards that we've put in, which we definitely are clear. They're not rules, they're standards, and they're things that we would all want to treat, how, again, coming back to Mary Jo's point, how we would want to treat each other. How do you want to treat each other to be valued? So these are things we've done. We have Good Vibes linked to those, and then we celebrate those every single month. And those Good Vibes are not always things that people have done brilliantly. They might be learning from something that's gone completely wrong, but we celebrate that. What we do is we call out celebrating the learning, and it's a really important part of our culture for people to feel safe, and so we can truly innovate best out of people. So yeah, lots has gone on in our space. As I say, Office Vibe is fairly new for us. We've had it for about a year now, doing pretty well so far. And for us, quick surveys, super frequent, manager-owned, breadth of questions. So this is a move on from where we were, always on approach and super responsive. And the fact that it enables managers to have autonomy, to know their people. the bespoke survey options to deep dive and really get into things, and all of the other factors it has, the ability to respond to feedback in the moment, whether people want to be anonymous or otherwise, is just so crucial to understanding what is it that actually helps your people thrive and do a great job and come to work. And we still work very hybrid in the UK, or certainly at EDF UK. So, this is a really, really good tool for us, and we're still in the part of a migration. But in terms of success, we get so much feedback from our people on how our new space, our new offices, and all that's based on listening to our people and understanding what they need. They tell us they love it, both the platform, I have to say, but also the way in which our culture is evolving to a much more autonomous, trusted, empowered space for people to be. And I guess our engagement scores across retail is 8.4. That has been maintained now for quite a period of time. We have between 70 and 80% participation ongoing, which is pretty good, certainly way better than our previous ones. And obviously, I can't go without mentioning that we were number 2, not quite number 1, but I'm very proud of number 2 at this stage in our journey on Office Vibe in the over 1,000 category, employees categories. So overall, it's been a great success for us so far. Lots of things going on, but yeah, absolutely resonate with some of the things that Kelly was saying in terms of what we're doing at EDF UK.
That's awesome, Sarah, and definitely something to be really proud of about your engagement score. So it's great to hear. If I can bounce, because I have a question that I know you're going to probably relate to. You mentioned earlier that you have a lot of employees who worked in call centers, right?
Yeah.
So we have someone in the chat from HR department that said it's very difficult to engage with employees who are working remote and in call center because they don't have much time to collaborate, much space to collaborate. They do it mostly on Teams. Do you have any one quick advice for that person to try to engage their employees a bit more?
Absolutely. Team time is crucial. You have to have connection. You have to create belonging. We do lots and lots of storytelling. So on the back of the listening that we do, which is an always on, so the point of it being always on means that people feel in touch with their manager at all points. We do glow ups every week. So that would be an all in. Everybody comes and joins for a very short period of time, maybe 20 minutes. They get to hear what's happening in the company. They understand what's going on. We celebrate the successes. So we try to create belonging and connection through our purpose, who we are, what we do, but on a day-to-day basis through managers. That might be once a week. And one-to-ones, can I just say, are fundamental and crucial. And we have, as I say, hybrid working, and we also have offshore partners. So we are working all over the place. And, our offices are attractive spaces too, but that doesn't exclude the fact that we create a great experience for people who are working from home through lots of different means, but mainly connection and belonging.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I think I can speak for that person to say I'm sure it's going to really help them. Sara from Workleap, do you have any engagement strategy that Workleap implemented that you saw that improved EX and engagement?
Yeah, and my answer is preaching what Sara and Kelly just said as well. I think at the core, it's listening. It's something that's so underestimated yet highly effective, and ways to act and improve on EX. Just that authenticity when you listen to understand, which is one of our core values at Workleap. For example, I have 2 that come to mind with different stakeholders involved, either within the HR function or at the leader level. But when it comes down to what we've done within the HR function in the past couple of months is, yes, we do have a great pulse on engagement through Office Vibe ourselves, but going directly to people as well and having coffee chats, trying to do a bit of client discovery on our end, just like how a product team would book interviews with customers to get a better feel of what the product needs are, what is a use case on how they're utilizing a product. Very similar for us, our internal customers are the people that work at Workleap, right? So by doing so, we've been able to have a great insight as to how people are feeling, what's keeping them up at night, what is motivational to them right now, what's less motivational to them. And it doesn't come from an angle of finding a solution or resolving things. It's more so better understanding and looking at, each person's perspective. Now it's a long list, so it's an initiative that started on our end. but it's been really rewarding, I think, on both ourselves, like for us as the HR function, but also for the people. On the leadership level, there's so much you can do, as Kelly and Sara have already mentioned, within Office 5. But I think, again, coming to the point of showing that genuine care and listening is how are you utilizing the data to then showcase it? Perhaps if you do a custom survey, taking the results of it, finding a way to integrate it into your communications back to the team to show that not only, have you taken the time to read it on your own, you're bringing it back to the team to try to empower them as well to find a solution if there is a drop or you see that a sub-metric is low. So what I coach leaders on doing is oftentimes when you do a custom survey, don't stop there and keep the information limited to your understanding, bring it back and do a full circle moment where, of course, like keeping it as high level as you can, showcasing it to the team, because not only does it show that you have, of course, like read through it, you're taking it seriously, but you're also bringing it back to them and trying to find a solution together rather than owning the entirety of the solution development process on your own, keeping them involved from the beginning process of researching what the core issues are all the way through the execution is so key. And it also showcases, again, that listening ability that you have and making them part of the solution, which I think is very rewarding. So those are some examples of ways to truly listen, to value the voice of the employees, and to not underestimate the power of just investing that time for showing up and listening in the face of challenging situations or engagement drops that is frankly normal for every organization as we see an engagement crisis right here. So yeah, that's a couple of examples that come to mind.
That's a great one, and I can vouch, Sarah, for the coffee chat engagement program. You're telling it from the HR perspective. I was part of it from the employee perspective, so I was part of that coffee chat, and I would say it was a very engaging program. It was a super productive conversation I had with the HR team. It was open, honest. It felt really awesome to be listened to, and I definitely left that chat more engaged than I was 30 minutes before. So it's a really good initiative. So kudos to the Workleap HR team for that program. Really awesome. To cap it off about the employee experience programs, Mary Jo, I know you mentioned earlier a little bit the OnStars initiative and the Good Vibes.
I think I'll talk about something else then.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
So that's what I was going to talk about, but I talked about it earlier. So I've been racking my brain of something else to say. And I would say there's two kind of things that we made a decision about. One was that when we went from being just a local South Bend, Indiana company to having locations, 5 other locations, one of them being in India, the others are in different states, and having remote people, is that we were just determined not to have what people call the remote tax, which is like this negative experience when you're remote that everyone at the home office doesn't experience. So we can't totally avoid that, but we do a lot of things to try to work around it. So for example, we're having a company town hall tomorrow. It'll be in person in the different locations, but people that are remote, everyone else is getting lunch. So they're all getting a $20 DoorDash gift card, right? So that the remote people can order lunch and not just the people that are at the home office. We had another situation where we just ordered a bunch of swag for our people, and the company said, well, we won't be able to ship to your team in India, so they won't be able to order. I was like, yeah, that's unacceptable. Like, we'll ship it then. Like, we just work really hard. So one of our strategies is to make sure that people that are remote don't get a less positive experience than other people. The other thing I would say, again, simple, is we decided that we're going to really recognize moments and milestones. So when someone on our team graduates from college or gets their MBA or gets a really hard tech certification, we are recognizing it. When someone has a baby, when someone has a loved one pass, we send flowers to funerals. When someone is in the hospital, we're talking about, do you need meals? What do you need? Like, we've just decided that we're going to recognize as many moments as we can. And that means we have to count on our managers to make sure people ops knows about the moments and we work together to make them happen. But again, it's like this really simple way to do it. And I've been watching the chat of pushback on, well, I have a different kind of team, or people are in the field, and I get that this doesn't work for everyone. If our company was 10,000 people, we may need some different strategies. I'm only speaking to my experience. But I think the idea that you try to keep it simple and treat people the way you would want to be treated can sort of drive your strategy no matter what kind of company you have.
I agree totally, Mary Jo, and I like that you are mentioning the chat. I also like to call out what's happening in the chat right now. So many attendees helping each other, giving each other advice on different types of organization, people putting their email, LinkedIn, connecting together. That's really awesome to see, and that's one of the reasons why we do those panels. So keep it going, everyone. I love to see the interaction. Um, and we're gonna. Oh yeah, do you have something to add, Mary Jo?
Could, we may have to go, but could I address just one quick thing?
Yeah.
Someone said something earlier when I was talking. They said, you're talking about employee engagement, but what if they're disengaged? Don't you want them not there? Yes. By me saying we do a lot on team member experience does not mean that we don't exit people that are disengaged. We are very much coach up or coach out. If you are not engaged, we are not the place for you. So I don't want anyone to misunderstand that I'm saying we do all these things for people and then they just do whatever they want. Absolutely not. We have a very high accountability culture. We have stringent performance management. We do all the things to make sure that you have to be on the bus if you're here. But that doesn't mean we also don't work really hard to make people want to be on the bus. But we are not in any way saying don't exit people that aren't engaged. In fact, we do it regularly.
That's good, and that's a really good clarification. Thanks for adding it, Mary Jo.
Thanks.
We're gonna move on into a different section. Someone mentioned it a bit earlier about the manager enablement and like how to make everyone in the organization accountable for employee experience. So my next question would be, are HR leaders the only responsible for EX? What about managers? What about employees? Sara from EDF, do you want to start with this one?
You can probably tell exactly what I'm going to say here.
I think so.
So really interesting in our journey actually was very much about almost wanting to make ourselves as EX professionals redundant, because it should sit in the business. Clearly I'm not suggesting I'm going to make myself redundant, but no, absolutely. From our perspective, or my perspective, certainly, people leaders are key. And, we've all heard the phrase, haven't we, that you leave because of a manager, but actually EX is at the heart of EX, and at the heart of the experiences is the very person you work with and you work for. And if they can create a really great experience that is business owned, not centrally owned, actually that's where the magic happens fundamentally. Our role, I think, in the people functions as people experts as we are, is to create the ripple, to source the ideas, to push that narrative, to coach and guide where needed, and really help people get to that place and drive some of the things that are really great. And certainly in our business now with Office 5, we have business. So all the managers obviously own their own data, and to the points that have been kind of raised around bespoke surveying and all of that, absolutely sharing the results is a really important part of it. We do them more, I guess, from an exec level. We certainly share those results, but actually, it is really, really important that we are there to nudge and guide, but that the business owns their people information. It's just so important. If we don't do that, we've not got it right.
Yeah, that's great. Kelly, do you want to follow on that?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with Sara's point. So I don't want to reiterate her statement verbatim, but I completely agree. I think HR has a role to play in setting up systems and processes to provide visibility and best practices, but leaders really have a critical role to play in fostering engagement within their teams and have the most impact on the team member experience. There's a quote that's always resonated with me, which is, the culture of any organization is shaped by the worst behaviors that leaders are willing to tolerate. And I believe that in contrast to that, I think leaders have the ability to create and foster a positive culture and experience by being purposeful with the behaviors they recognize and promote. So I think they absolutely have a key role to play with HR in their corner. I think by partnering together is where we get the best results, and rowing in the same direction. And I think it's important as well to call out that team members have a critical role to play as well in contributing to a positive work culture by being respectful and inclusive and contributing to the team's goals. Because similar to what Mary Jo mentioned, if you have a team member who's actively disengaged on the team, that's not just their own disengagement, that's going to impact the entire team. So I think that all team members have a role to play, but absolutely leaders are in the driver's seat of engagement.
Thank
And
you.
I know Sarah's going to talk about this. I wasn't on the list, but I just want to say how much I struggle with this. So if you are on the chat, like when I'm in charge of the activity or the initiative or whatever we're doing for recognition engagement, but now that we're big enough that I can't do it all myself and I have to empower our managers and train our managers, it's hard. I don't know about everybody else. Like, I just want to make that very clear. Getting 50 of my managers to participate in all of this and is a lot of manager training. So it's not easy. It was easier when it was me doing all of it. And now that I recognize how important it is to have my managers doing it, it is really a journey. So I just want to say to anyone else thinking that it's not easy to get everyone to do that.
What,
Yeah.
just jumping in there, I was just thinking one of the key, I know we're all passionate about this topic, but one of the key things I think as people leaders of, as HR people is definitely letting go. It is us not being in control and letting go for the people who are ultimately having the massive influence over individuals. We can do the strategy, we can build, we can drive all of those really great things we need to drive, but actually the managers are the people leaders are the people who know their people best. The intricacies, the thing that makes it personal, the thing that recognizes somebody, because we're not all the same at all. We're a dry stone wall. We're not a brick wall. And I think this idea that you understand the individuality of, I think it was Kelly who mentioned, possibly Sarah, about how we bring ourselves to work, what's happened before we arrive and when we go home. As a manager, you know that. As an HR person, you can't possibly know that about everybody. You may get involved in some things. And so that absolute need to know your people, which is, to be fair, what Office 5 does so brilliantly, helps you know your people. It helps to facilitate that, I think, is the key to letting go. But yes, I get your point there, Mary Jo.
Well, Sarah, I will be touching base with you so you can give me some pointers on letting go. It is a challenge to let go and train. I'm telling you, every day right now I'm dealing with this, so I'll be in touch.
I look forward to it.
Poor Laurent's going to be looking for how could he mute us all, but just to close on that as well.
Going.
I think in fairness as well, what we hear a lot from our people leaders is they are struggling because it is a lot of pressure on them. So we try to stay, as much as I believe they have such a critical role to play. And that's why we try to be really purposeful in who we promote and bring into leadership roles in our organization. It's not an easy role of what we're asking of them, particularly in adapting to a hybrid work environment. So that's where we've really tried to invest a lot of time and energy into coaching, supporting, and training our leaders. Similar to how we talked about, the team member experience impacting the customer or patient experience, we're really trying to narrow our focus on the more we invest in our people leaders, the more we will see the positive outcome on our team members' experience, because it's definitely not easy for leaders right now either. So not saying they have all the solutions either, but definitely feel that that's where the accountability lies.
That's good.
100%. If I could add to that, actually, I think we all mentioned key points here that leaders, yes, are the forefront of what the employees see and feel in terms of their day-to-day. And it's a lot as well to continuously learn and apply those theories whenever there's an engagement drop. I think, although we don't want there to be one, it's a great opportunity to practice the theory that you might have learned. And one thing that we've actually not just done for leaders, but for all employees is also upskill employees on how to just do the full feedback loop with radical candor, having a way to offer what's next step to your feedback. So it's productive, it's solution oriented. And I think that's to speak on the employee side, right? It's up to everyone to have an impact on employee engagement. HR professionals, the leaders, and of course as well the employees. So I think it's important to keep in mind that we also be investing in the people themselves to set them up for success, to be able to have those productive conversations when there's feedback to be shared up.
That's a great answer. Thanks, everyone. A lot of things to say on manager enablement. I think that's gonna have to be the panel, the topic of the next panel. I hear you. So let's work on that together. We're gonna move to the last question because we want to take some time to answer answer everyone's question from the chat. So let's look ahead. We're speaking about the engagement crisis now, but how should companies prepare for the future of work to prevent the next engagement crisis from affecting their organization? Because there will probably be at some point a next engagement crisis. There was one at the start of COVID when the Gallup study said that the engagement hit a 10-year low. It means that those levels can fluctuate. So how can companies prepare to prevent that from happening in the future? Sara from Workleap, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's something to look at when it comes down to the balancing act. You need between two main driving forces for engagement because you can't have one without the other. And that would be, so two parts. For me, it's core work hygiene, like your basic perks, the relationships you have with your peers, with your leaders, which are continuously like developing and could change over time. And then you have a second driver, which is the motivators. So, for example, recognition, which we talked a lot about, good vibes, progression, development. Where are you heading in your role? How much autonomy do you have in your role, which is a basic human need? And these two are their own categories. So, what I would really look at to be proactive on it is balancing the two, because you can't, for instance, replace someone's good relationship with a peer if like let's say there's just not a good enough contact with the team dynamic with more recognition. It won't put the balance back on track. So I think there needs to be an assessment of where is the balance not really being met and making sure to fill the cup back up on that part of the balance. So I would say it's first of all just assessing where are you at to then develop a proper next step, which responds to bringing the balance back where it's equal, because ultimately you need both of those elements, motivators and core working conditions that are optimal to drive engagement.
Thank you, Sara. Mary-Jo, do you want to give us your perspective on that?
Yeah, I know we're running out of time, so I'll be quick.
Okay.
I think it's just important to know who you are and what you believe about these topics and what you believe about how you want to treat your team. And then anytime there's a new challenge, you are guided by that. So when we went remote and it was like, oh my God, of course, during COVID, we didn't know what to do exactly, but we knew what our core beliefs were, right? That family comes first, that we treat people well, that people want to feel belonging, those kind of things. If you always keep in mind like what you truly believe, then any new challenge you can just adjust your strategies for, but you at least have the framework of how you want to make decisions. I feel so lucky that our CEO and president have been so clear about what that is, that if I ever don't know what to do in a situation, I just think through those and I know that, okay, like I should do this because this is what we believe. Like, so I think having that framework and then you can adjust to changing times, but stay true to that.
Thank you, Mary-Jo. Kelly, how should leaders prepare for a future engagement crisis?
Yeah, I think the key is don't wait for a crisis. I think investing in engagement and the team member experience as a strategic pillar is key. And it's not just something to react to, but the way we do business, it is definitely an employee's market right now. So they have choices. So it's so key that they feel connected to the purpose and mission of the organization. And I think being authentic and consistent with communication is critical. One thing we continue to work on improving is being transparent with our team members and consistently providing the why behind strategic decisions and linking it back to our purpose. And this is important for us as we continue to grow and want our culture and engagement to continue to be scalable and sustainable as we grow. But likewise, the more we reinforce how team members' feedback through platforms like Workleap have helped shape our decisions and actions, then the more they feel heard and valued. I think the biggest risk is putting out surveys or asking the question and doing nothing. by taking no action, by not reinforcing how we've leveraged it, I think is a huge risk. So really making sure you're connecting the dots and bringing it back to, we heard you, we asked, you shared, this is what drove these decisions and actions, I think is so key, in being consistent in that.
100%. Being proactive, and it's like engaging to know that leaders are listening to what you have to say. So I totally agree with that. Sara, do you have any other tips to add?
I mean, other than to say, Kelly, you're absolutely 100% resonate with the fact that you have to do stuff with it. Otherwise, you just disengage people even more than if you hadn't asked in the first place. So that is absolutely crucial. But I think for me, I think it comes back to people experience is dynamic. It's impacted by things internally and externally, and you have to keep it fresh. You have to be on it all the time with a really clear understanding of what's going on, hence the people listening. I think the bit about clear purpose, values, belonging, that's your core. You have to have that there, and you have to keep the narrative going, really good communication, really clear about what that looks like, so people have that sense of belonging. And with that, I think you have to ensure that the lived experience of your people is what you promise and what helps them thrive, and that listening is the key bit to understanding that. That's probably where I would end.